Dylan Martin.
Hello, I'm Dylan.
Martin.
Hi, I'm Neil, and this is Youth on Subjects of the World. And today we're doing an Ask Me Anything, and we have a forum with a few questions posted by people that we are going to answer because that's an Ask Me Anything.
What is it associated with, though? What are we doing this through?
Self-directed. It's the Alliance for Self-Directed Education, and I don't know if the website will be posted anywhere in the description, but it's www.self-directed.org if you want to go there. So yeah, do we want to just get right into the first question? We don't have that many questions, so we want to kind of like
spread them out.
Yeah, spread them out, and also spend quite a bit of time on each question, kind of go over in tangents because we don't have that many questions.
Yeah, because we can never manage to go on tangents.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
Real hard at it.
So should we get started on the first question, or does anyone want to say anything first?
No, let's get started on the first question.
All right. Okay. So, wait a second. Wait a second.
So while he does that, let's hear a word from our sponsors. Oh wait, we don't have any. So while he does that, let's hear.
Wait 1 second. I can't find the timestamp on the thing.
No, right now it's 4:05.
Okay, but then I'll just have to go back and go to each one. Okay. That sucks. All right. All right, so the first question is it's from Al Mayberry, and it says, "Hi, how well do the students get along as far as using the judicial system to take care of grievances? Does the judicial system take a lot of time to handle the issues between students in a Sudbury school? Are there other schools that have different ways of to handle it? Does your school have a judicial system, and how much time does it take up?" Okay, so
Neil can go on a lot about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna like mute myself because I have no input.
So, all right, so this is just the first part of the question, because Dylan and I go to a Sudbury school, and this is clearly what it's addressing, the judicial system. For those of you who don't know, there's a thing called the JC, or the Judicial Committee, in pretty much every Sudbury school pretty much, and they handle the grievances of students, or between students, or between staff members, or between students and staff members. So basically, if you think someone broke a rule, you can write them up, and the case will go before JC. And the principle of JC, it's basically a justice system run by your peers. So no one's superior or inferior to you. You're the people you spend all day with on the justice system, and it's a rotating group of people. So everyone gets a chance to be on JC basically.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So all right. So let's just so it's just the first part of the question. How well do students get along as far as using the judicial system to take care of grievances? Okay, so how well do they get along using it? I think the younger students, the majority of, I guess, what you would call learning or social development comes from JC for the younger students, I believe, because it really just shows them, I guess, the limits and bounds of society and societal norms, and
like what's acceptable and what's not acceptable.
Right, and also teaches them how to articulate themselves very well. And I think JC is handled. New students tend to get the wrong idea of JC right off the bat. However, that changes very fast. Like common misconceptions would be it's a bad thing if you're written up. First of all, getting written up is a normal thing that happens. Breaking a rule, everyone breaks rules every once in a while by accident. And
Neil, I would say for the new students, sometimes they conflate, like it's like going to the principal's office.
Yeah, they conflate it with this going to this superior authority that's basically going to punish you no matter what, and that's not what it is. Because if you go to JC, you're not guilty. You're not. It's just what we It's basically just the process that we use to handle grievances. And so I think very, very soon after new students are at the school, they get used to the judicial system very, very quickly. And they realize that it's not a bad thing. It's just a part of the school. And I think everyone gets used to being written up, writing people up, and being on JC. So yeah, do you want to go more on that tangent? Or?
What tangent?
I'm sorry, do you want to add anything onto that?
Not really. I think Neil explained it very well, but you didn't talk about at all about the time it takes.
Well, no. I was going to go by each part of the question.
Oh, okay.
The next
No,
part.
I don't have anything to add.
Okay, then the next part of the question is, does the judicial system take a lot of time to handle the issues between students in a Sudbury school? So that heavily depends. I cannot give you a concrete answer on that at all. So
Yeah, like last week, Neil knows because it sucked for him. It was like an hour and a half long every day, or close to that almost every day.
for like a week.
Yeah, for like a week. But other times there might be there might be like
It might be no cases in which cases.
Yeah.
If you're talking about individual cases, normally on average, I would say like 5 minutes. It could just be literally even less than a minute if it's something very, very minor, or if we
it's
just
like obviously not guilty.
yeah, like if it's obviously not guilty, JC will just dismiss it like that. Or for example, somebody writes someone up for a rule that doesn't exist, we'll just immediately dismiss the case. But depending for individual cases, it really depends. We've had JCs that last for like over an hour for individual case. We've had JCs that last for under a minute for individual cases. It really depends because not all the JC cases are equal. All of them are different. All of them require different considerations based on the circumstances, which rule was or was not broken, points of contention, and mostly the students that are actually involved, because JC will have to change their attitude and the way they work towards each student to get to their reason for being written up or reason for writing someone up on a fundamental level. And yeah, it's basically I can't give you a concrete answer on how long a JC case takes because it really depends. Average would be 5 minutes, maybe 10, just because most of the cases are pretty minor or are very open and shut.
Yes, I think a lot of it is just trying to decide a good punishment for the crime.
Right.
I think we're still trying to figure that out for ourselves because we haven't been doing it for that long.
Finding punishments that are relevant to and not only relevant that discourage things in the future, like extra cleanup jobs, restrictions basically you can't use this for a week or something like that. Or
Here, like Neil, so like today, one student a couple days ago or the day before, she didn't do her cleanup job, and her cleanup job is to do all the mugs in the school, like clean all, because we have like a bunch of tea mugs. She has to clean them out, and that's her only job. And she didn't do it, and she just forgot to do it. And then after we told her to do it, then she did it, but we still wrote her up for it, even though it wasn't going to be that big of a punishment, but it was just like you kind of have to. And then we made this is like common that she has to make like a sign or something that she has to wear all day, or like you have to make a sign to post somewhere. So she didn't do the mug, so it said real thugs clean the mugs. So it can be comical. Or like, oh, there was another student who had to make a sign and he didn't put his stuff away, so it was like rough clean up your stuff. And there's a dog.
Those are basically just like really minor things, just not really a punishment, but more giving them something with a remember.
So a lot of times it's stuff like that. Other than that, JC is not a big deal. But I do like a lot. I think what's really awesome about JC is the fact that it's not just like a superior, like dealing out the punishments. It's one of your peers. Even though sometimes I do think it can be confusing for younger students because they see like older students, because the way we form our JCs, it's a younger student, it doesn't even have to necessarily mean by age. It's just like experience. And then you have like a person with very little experience, a person with a medium amount of experience, and a person with a lot of experience. And so I think, but it tends to be the people with a lot of experience are the older students. But it doesn't have to be like my brother Andrew. He's 11. He's one of the older. He has more experience. Like he's
more experience with Sudbury. Therefore, if he breaks the rule, it's going to be taken more seriously, or it's going to be given a harsher punishment.
But also, I think for the younger students, they see like us, like me and Neil, who are older students, having like kind of like a position of power, because most of the time the person who has very little experience isn't saying anything at all. And it's just the two other people. But really mainly, it's like the person with a lot of experience. So they see us in like position of power and they get confused and they think that we're like above them. Like I've gotten asked a few times if I'm the like staff member. I think other than that, I think it's good. It's really good to have like the peers dealing out the punishments because it's not like, oh, you're being unfair because you're older than me and you don't know anything. It's like, well, no, I'm still a kid too.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you want to add on? Or should we go into the next part of their question?
Let me move on to the next part of the question.
All right. Are there other schools that have different ways to handle it? Okay, so I'm assuming this is Sudbury School because it's pretty obvious that this is. If you look at the fence, it wasn't. So pretty much every Sudbury school, you're not really a Sudbury school that much if you don't have like a JC based on the core principles of peer-to-peer process for justice and the write-up system. That being said, every school's JC is different in the way of the culture and the maturity of the school. For example, our school's JC would be different than Sudbury Valley's JC. One, because the cultures always develop differently in every single school. That's something cool about Sudbury School. You can go to one and have a completely different culture. Number two is the maturity of the school and basically how many rules they have, how many regulations, how much they develop the process. So we're a relatively new school. We've been around for 3 years. And the culture of our school is rather casual, meaning that students will, we don't tend to give out harsh punishments unless A, we think that the student's going to do it again, or B, unless the student is completely apathetic or they broke a serious rule. Because we have a small school and we have a culture where we trust each other to the point of unless you meet one of those two requirements, you're not going to get a real harsh punishment.
Did you say we could go on a small tangent?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, I listened to a really interesting podcast today. It was called Waking Up with Sam Harris. It's pretty popular. But I really liked, he was talking about the ethics of apologizing. Like what thing is beyond an apology, like a sincere apology? Like if you kill someone, is a sincere apology, make it is that enough kind of thing? Like where do you draw the line at what's enough, like when an apology is enough? And I really thought it was interesting what he was saying. And it was kind of like, if you can draw a clear path.
Submarine how we, where we draw the line of a student apologizing to another student as adequate punishment. And
I really liked what he said. It's like, where can you draw a direct line of like how someone got to full remorse? Well, obviously they have to show full remorse for what they did and see how terribly horrific it is.
Right.
Like I really like to use the example as like, the guy who was like on top of the Texas, like the Texas University or something, and he was on top of like this bell tower and he just like shot like he killed 14 people a long time ago, not recently. Mm-hmm. I'm sure have you ever heard of it, Neil?
Maybe.
I'm sure you've seen the videos of it, but the guy, like they killed him when they got to the top of the tower, but he had like a brain tumor, and that was impeding on his mental state, was this brain tumor, and they got to remove that. He wouldn't have done it. So it was like an interesting ethical thing. Like, should he have gone to jail for it because something that could physically have stopped it? And he sees the clear path of why it was horrific for what he did. And I thought that was really interesting. Like maybe you could apologize for murder if you could draw a direct line of how someone got. If someone could think how they got from a clear, full remorse for what they did and see how, despicable it is.
Mm-hmm.
Feel that own disgust. Which I thought was really I thought that was really interesting.
I think, putting it back into, that's kind of what we have in Sudbury as well. We will accept an apology for JC as in apologizing to the person you, I guess, offended by breaking the rule. But, it's to an extent, coming back to the question that we were addressing, which was, do other schools work out their grievances in other ways? Yes, but that's either A, just talking about it with the student not going to JC, or B, if you go to JC, everything's pretty much the same. The only thing that changes it is the maturity of the school and the culture of the school. At least that's my interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And now here's the last part of the question. Wait a minute. This is a redundant. The same. The question is, does your school have a judicial system, and how much time does it take up? And then that's the same question as, does the judicial system take a lot of time to handle the issues between students in Sudbury School? I guess that's if our school isn't a Sudbury School, but it is, and I think, yeah. So as we can either move on or.
I think we can move on.
All right. So the next question is, let me just mark down when we're addressing this. And all right, I'm interested in learning about the transition from a public school, which micromanaged your
Wait,
learning.
Neil, who asked the question? I think that's important.
Element education.
Okay. So, okay, yeah.
I'm interested in learning about the transition from a public school, which micromanaged your learning, to an environment in which you gain agency of your learning. What advice do you have for a smooth transition? What might one expect to experience as far as feelings, public, or even family circumstances, and a sense of direction? So the first part of the question, I think, Dylan, you'll obviously need to answer, because Dylan actually went to public school before going to Sudbury.
Mm-hmm.
And
I had that transition.
Yeah. So basically, yeah. So that basically.
So my transition, I don't know, like I don't really know too many other people's stories, but it started out, I just left 6th grade because I hated it so like horribly. And I really, my anxiety started to get like horrible, like having a panic attack like every week or more. Like, I don't know, 3 panic attacks a day was like the worst. So I had to leave. So I left and I started to do this stuff called homebound tutoring, where you're still in public school, but they just send tutors to your house. If you can't, it's like for people that are like, I don't know, somehow disable themselves to get into school and just can't make it in. And then they have to send out tutors. So I got enrolled in that program for a little while. And that was okay for a little while. It was like, I liked having the one-on-one experience with like a tutor. And it like, God, we went past everyone. Like it was a lot faster than if you were taking the courses in public school. Like I think, like I hadn't taken any classes for like 3 weeks. Like I left school and then it took like 3 weeks for them to get homebound tutors, or maybe even more than that. And then we caught up in like a week. We caught up to what they were doing in a week. So it was nice being able to do that. And so I did that for maybe like 6 months. And so after that, I just started to get pissed off with that because it was pretty much the same old thing. And so then I moved on to kind of like homeschooling, kind of unschooling myself. Like I didn't really go into, I guess like my parents and me didn't have like the vocabulary to describe what we were doing. But I would say it was a mix of like unschooling, homeschooling. Like I was doing it pretty much all on my own, but I still was in the mindset like I have to learn math now. Like let me put out some time to do math. Let me put out some time to do reading because I had to do reading kind of thing. So it wasn't like, but I didn't really know what unschooling was either, because there weren't like the little we looked into it, there weren't too many unschooling. No, like nothing about unschooling. It was just like Christian groups, Christian and homeschoolers. So I did that for like a year. And I got kind of bored with that because I didn't really have too many friends my age, and I felt like I was kind of like I didn't really leave the house all that much. Like there'd be just like a week where I just wouldn't leave the house. Not because I didn't want to, just because there's no reason to. I didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't have any friends. Like I didn't really have any friends back then, which kind of sucked a lot. So I thought like, I want to try and find a place that I can actually like go to and make a lot of friends. So I started to, I don't know why, I just thought to look up alternative education, and there's like what's it? Like an article about 7 kinds of school homework's not for you. I forget exactly what it was. So I read that, and it had like Montessori and all those kind of schools. But one of them was Sudbury, and and that sounded really fascinating to me, a Sudbury School, so I decided to look it up, and it sounded fascinating to my parents too. And kind of as just a joke, I looked up South Jersey Sudbury School, and it popped. It was like South Jersey Sudbury School opening in 2 months because it was like July, and it starts in September. And I was like, oh wow, that's pretty crazy. So then we started to go from there, and I found it, and I really loved it.
Actually, South Jersey Sudbury School.
Yeah, the school is actually called South Jersey Sudbury School. So I mean, it was pretty awesome, and then that's how I went from there. But I would say it really took about 2 years to completely get out of like a public school mindset. It took a long time to completely get out, like to where I wasn't afraid of Sundays because the day after Sunday I have to go back to school. Like there'd be times where I was just like, it'd be a Sunday and I'm feeling anxious. I'm like, why am I feeling anxious? And I'm like, oh right, because on Sunday I have to go back to school. I would have had to go back to school. So it was nice to be able to eventually get out of that. Like it took a year for most of it to go away, but it took another year for it to go away completely. So that was my journey with unschooling, like with my transition. Do you have anything to say, Neil? Was there another part of the question?
Yeah, there is. We'll move on to that.
What were you saying, Martin?
Well, I was just going to jump in on that part to say I haven't had an experience personally with transitioning like from one to another, but I've had a lot of friends who have and gone back and forward between it, like throughout the years, like cycling back between public school to like homeschool to like different types of private schools and like non-public education, like Montessori's or like things like that, and then back to public school and then homeschooled and just like all around the place. And I think whenever I ask them about like how that feels, the biggest thing that they always say is the way you're treated in a public school and the way that adults and teachers treat you in a public school is way more demeaning than in like other places. And then the other thing was the way normal adults treat you when they find out you don't go to a public school is way more demeaning. And I always found that interesting that in like no matter what, there's just going to be people looking down on you for whatever reason.
I haven't had that much of an experience with people looking down on me, but I wouldn't be surprised about it if someone had that.
I have. I think everyone on here has probably got the like, what's 2 + 2 question and stuff.
Surprisingly, I haven't gotten that one yet.
I have.
You have?
Yeah. I'm like, it's window. What do you mean? Like, what kind of question is that?
Okay, wait, no, just be clear though. It wasn't, they didn't literally say what's 2 + 2, did they?
No, they did.
What? Okay, come on. That's so...
Yeah.
Like, unironically?
Unironically. It wasn't like, now I was 12, so I wasn't, but still I was 12.
You're 12, okay.
I'm 16 now, so if I got that question now and they were serious, I'd be like, no.
Just get out my face.
But at 12, even at 12, I was like, dude, I'm 12 years old. I've made it this far in life. I know what to do.
Everybody, because there's going to be one guy saying they're deflecting because they don't actually know. The answer is 3, okay?
Yes.
2 + 2 = 3, all right?
Yes.
2 + 2 is 22.
Yeah, 2 + 22. All right, move on. So
what was the next part of the question?
Yeah, so next part of the question... Oh, sorry, I forgot. I can't read. I forgot about that part. I can't read anything.
Idiot.
All right.
What you get for not going to public school, dude?
I know. Sucks for me. All right, let me see. Where did I leave off? I mentioned... all right. What advice do you have for a smooth transition? Basically? Dylan, do you want to hop on that first? Because, you actually went to public school and then went to kind of unschooling, homeschooling, hybrid, and then went to Sudbury.
I don't know. I mean, at least for me, it felt like kind of like a natural progression to get from one thing to another. But I don't know. Like, I don't think I'd be the best to give an example because I don't think it was that smooth for me. Like, it took a long time and it took a lot of, like, trials. But I think, Neil, you have something to say.
Yeah, I do because I didn't experience nearly as much of a dramatic transition as Dylan did. I experienced a transition because after I was homeschooled for a little while when I was really young, then I was unschooled for a really long time. And now, of course, I go to Sudbury School as of 3 years ago. And yeah, so I I felt this need when I went to the Sudbury School, and I feel like unschoolers would also feel this if they came from public school. Like Dylan was just saying, you feel like you need to learn something. Like when I went to Sudbury School, I was like, oh, well, technically I can do nothing all day. But I shouldn't be playing with my friends either. I should sit down and do work because that's the point. So I really felt that. And then it took me a while to realize that everything we do has value. Sure, some things may have more value than others, but I really undervalued the aspect of enjoying your life as well as learning things from everyday experiences. And I think my advice would be, number one, don't give a shit about what people think about you. There's so many assholes where it's going to be like, what's 2 plus 2? Like, first of all.
Well, to censor a little bit what Neil's saying, to be a little less brash about it, you need to have the attitude of don't care about what other people think of you, but also make sure you're not. What I want you to do is to get upset and be rude.
Well, no, I'm not saying get upset. I'm saying
I know.
In your mind, don't care what people think about you. Do not care. Talk to them whatever you want. Try to change your mind, but don't care what people think about you.
If you're like a 13-year-old who has like mental health issues and you have people who think down on you, and there's like, you can't get into a mindset where you can just like not care. It's something I would recommend.
Well, it's always a learning process and a trying.
Yeah, like you gotta think about things. You have to figure out ways of thinking about situations like that.
Okay, no.
Wait, well, I actually have one thing to say about this. I think that would have helped me a lot. Is to to have a plan and stick with the plan, and don't go back on it. Like, be 100% sure on it, and don't go off of that plan. Because there are a lot of times where I had no idea what I wanted to do, and that was stupid. I should have known what I wanted to do. Like, I should have found out about the Sudbury School way before everything else. But that's what I really should have done. And there are a lot of people that did try to get me to not do it at all, like to go unschooled or homeschooled. Like, I had this one tutor, like, I hated her so much. Like, she made my mom cry and me cry because she was saying, like, oh, well, you're ruining, like, she was telling me, she's like, you're ruining your mom's life. That's what she told me. And she told my mom that she's ruining her life if she does this. It's like, Jesus, stupid bitch. And because she was like,
if you went to a Sudbury School.
No, if I was homeschooled.
Okay, homeschool.
Yeah, I hated her so much.
Wait, that's so ridiculous because like.
I know that stressed me out so much.
Outperform their peers.
I know. Well, she was like my mom's name was Tara. She's like, Tara, you're ruining your life. She's like I don't know, like my daughter-in-law. She homeschools her kids, and her life sucks, and because she has to like spend her whole day with her kids, and she doesn't have any time to herself. And I was like, but I thought that was so stupid. I was like, well, her kids are like 6 and I'm 13. I can handle myself on my own.
Not to mention, that's a pretty big I don't know, maybe like that person.
That's one example. She literally has nothing.
I know, but even then, like maybe that person. I wouldn't be surprised if that was just like your tutor's perception of how that
how their life is.
Maybe just maybe she's a mother who wants to spend time with her children.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, just to be clear, this is, again, I'm not saying that you should always articulate yourself well when you're talking to people. But these are the kind of people that you really shouldn't care about what they think about you. Like, just you need to look into yourself and see and hold yourself up to your own standards. Now,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I would say too, like that kind of thing happened more than I would more than I would have liked it to happen.
And I'm not saying ignore everyone else and just go, this is what I think everyone else sucks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm saying just take each situation as its own and realize, does this person or what's this person saying actually have any bearing on my life, and is what they're saying actually valid?
Like actually, right after I left public school, I went to this like therapist dude. I don't know. That guy was really stupid because he was like the school district's therapist, like psychologist or something. I don't know. And so he had to do an evaluation on me to see what I could qualify for. If I could qualify for the homebound tutoring, or like there was this other program I was trying to get into. and it was like for kids that like couldn't go to normal public school, but it was like still public school. It was just like, it was like not as strenuous. It was more like a one-room classroom, and that's sounded interesting. But I didn't get into that. Kind of luckily, I was sad at the time I didn't get into it, but I wouldn't have found Sudbury. And so then, so I went to him, and he wrote this letter afterwards, like his evaluation, because my parents had told him, it was like, we're taking him. I was going to see, like, it was like I don't know what he was. He's like a doctor, therapist that my dad has been seeing for a very, very long time, and I went to go see him, and that was helping a lot. And so he wrote this, the like doctor, therapist, like school district guy wrote a letter. It was like, you can do all this kind of, like he basically said like nutcracker therapy kind of stuff. Like he thought it was bullshit, and he was like, but you have to actually do medical science on him, and like he was like, you have to prescribe actual antidepressants or he's gonna fail. So he wanted to put me on like this hard schedule of antidepressants, which I was like, fuck. And I was like, and my parents are like, well, he's not psychotic and he's not depressed, so why should you have to do that?
Yeah.
And yeah, that guy's ultra stupid. But I could tell he's one of those doctors that he just gave drugs to anyone who wanted, because his whole office was just like Percocet addicts.
Yeah.
That was his whole office. I was like, fuck.
Don't even get me started on antidepressants. Oh my gosh, I have such a big problem with those.
It's like, fuck, I'm not
like over prescribing of those.
I know,
Anyway,
it's crazy.
I think that's true with like all prescription drugs. Like they're like the fact that weed is a Schedule I drug, where that is proclaimed to have no benefits whatsoever, and that you can get Oxy because it's not easy to get OxyContin, but it's not hard.
But it's also kind of messed up, because there's people that like my neighbor, she legitimately needed OxyContin. Like it was not just because she wanted to, but she was like in horrendous pain and she can't get it because it's almost impossible to get it now, because so many doctors are getting sued for overprescribing it, and it's almost impossible to find people that are actually prescribing it.
This is why all drugs should be legal, everyone. Jesus Christ. Just saying.
No, people should hurt themselves.
I'm 100% against the use of drugs and alcohol in my own mind. Like I'm straight edge.
Yeah.
I morally disagree with that, and I think drugs 100% should be legal. Like,
I don't
it's
think
not an issue of morality. But anyways, we're getting off from the question.
Let's go to the next part of the question.
Okay.
But real quick, I had one more thing to say on that about the transition. Like that was the last thing we were talking about, right? We've gotten a little far off about like advice for the transition. Another piece of advice that like I would say is just make sure you don't like what Neil was saying. Make sure you don't let what anyone says get to you. And no matter what people tell you, you don't get taught how to like learn or how to know how to learn. And you don't need to be forced to learn to have the natural incentive to learn. Learning is part of life, and learning is part of human nature. We're naturally curious. And don't let people tell you, because you're not going to public school, that you're not going to learn things. Because the chances are, not going to public school, you're going to learn more about the real world than like whatever they tell you about like George Washington's, like whatever. Like things like that are interesting to a point, but should not be mandatory. And for the majority of the world, unless you want to be teachers, are not going to apply. So just keep that in your head and try your best not to engage in conversation with these people, because the chances are you're not going to be able to convince them otherwise of your point.
Yes. All right, Neil, so what's the next part of the question?
So the final part of the question is, what might one expect to experience as far as feelings, public, or even family criticisms and sense of direction? Okay, so I definitely want to address the part about criticisms from people. We like lightly just touched on that, like literally just did. But to say what are your feelings? I don't know the wording on that. I mean, it happens quite a lot. Yeah. What might someone experience? Okay, so pretty much a lot of people are going to be skeptical, and a lot of people are going to have questions. And
You're going to experience a lot of questions.
What?
Just questions. Lots of
Yeah,
questions.
lots and lots of questions. And some people will tend, these are the people that I'm saying don't really care what they think. A lot of people are going to also kind of criticize you, not just criticize the viewpoint. Like talking about a viewpoint and like criticizing the viewpoint is not bad at all. They'll just be like,
I've definitely talked to a lot of people that that don't get the Sudbury School, but they're not attacking me, and I'm fine with that because I can defend it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot of it is, a lot of people will not attack you, but they'll question a lot of things about you. And that's not inherently bad. When people start to be either patronizing or just downright disrespectful, those types of people that you just want to ignore. And you'll feel that from a lot of people, even family. I haven't really experienced that, but you definitely probably will, especially if some members of your family, extended or anything, aren't really too content.
And I would say, if you're going through this, don't expect to not be called stupid a few times. But as a joke, I get called. He's like, you go to the school where you don't have to do anything. I get that a lot. But it's more as a joke. It's not like,
yeah.
It's half a joke and they're half serious.
Yeah. Well, something that I would say is like you need a lot of questions, and like kind of like what we've been saying. Like some of them are gonna be like actual like I would like to know information about what you're doing, and some of them are gonna be like, well, how do you know this and stuff like that. And the best way to do it is to answer all of them with the same level of respect. If you can see the person actually cares about what you're saying, be a little bit more detailed. And if you can see the person's very skeptical, it's because I'm unschooled. I can't pronounce words.
Idiot.
I always just
learn.
I just like answer the questions the same way I would for anyone. And if I get people being rude, that's when I turn on the super snarky like guy who spends all his time researching things like, well, actually, I'm going to become a human dictionary now. We're going to have a conversation. And then when that happens,
you want to be stupid, I'll whoop your ass.
Yeah, but like that, but it's always I wait a while. So another thing is, this is going to sound weird, but be very well educated on what you are like.
I was about to say that too.
Doing. Because if you're well educated on what you're doing, you can like defend yourself from people who are going to prosecute you for it. Don't be like
and you can change their minds about it too.
Yeah, well, like if you can see that that's a possibility, because our human incentive is to like stick to our guns more if someone's being like if someone is going against you.
Someone being really disrespectful in your head. Yeah. In your head, don't care about what they think about you. I would even say be more respectful and be more and articulate yourself as well as you can when talking to these people, because I don't want to you want to come off as someone very, very, very well read. You want to come off as someone who's educated on the topic, and most likely you probably are a lot more than them and understand it. And just try to come off very well read, and and you like Martin was saying, I become the human dictionary. Be
very articulate and know what you're act like you've answered this question a million times.
Yeah.
But something that I've encountered and something that is very helpful is if you can present yourself in a way that's like impressive or whatever, but I don't mean like show off your talents. I mean just like a lot of kids, and I'll use the demographic we all fall under, like boys in between the ages of like 14 and 17 very largely fit into a category of people that adults don't really like that much. Like obviously that's
honestly people that people don't really like that much. Everyone.
Yeah. Like it's a category of people that people are not a fan of. That's a generalization. Obviously it's a
generalization, yeah.
But if you go to like, say, I think all of us are involved in various like things in our community, like theater and like stuff that we've done. It's just, you can tell when the people expect you to be like everyone else your age. So if you aren't like everyone else your age, like if you are like there is something different about you. Like there's always the thing that like people say like, no one, you're not special, but like the people on this call, for instance, we're not like special, but we're not exactly, we don't lead normal lives of people our age. We live a different kind of normal. Like it's normal for the other people that we live our lives with, like the other unschoolers and the other like Sudbury schoolers. But for the majority of like America, this is not normal. And like in order to like display that, I always try and make sure I'm presenting the best version of myself. And like, so if I'm in a group, like say I do a lot of theater. So say I'm like, well, I do like the crew side. So say I'm like at where I do theater and there's a bunch of like people I know and they're all like my age and all of them are doing stupid things like running around shirtless and dancing and swearing.
Wait, what the fuck? What did the fuck did you say?
Running around
I always
shirtless.
do.
How old are these people? What?
Like my age. It's a long
What?
story. Well,
Wait,
like,
That's what we do.
Whoa,
Just like-
whoa. Slow down. You're not moving away from this. You're not. No.
they're theater kids. They need attention. I don't know. Anyway,
They run around shirtless dancing.
well, they they dance shirtless and wave their shirts
Theater
around.
kids are,
Anyways,
theater kids are like the
That's what I
most
do.
eccentric people you'll ever meet.
anyways, but like while they're doing that and like swearing loudly in front of like the 6-year-old, I try and be the one to be like, hey guys, let's not do that. Because I think what people will expect is the kid who's unschooled, who doesn't go to school, is going to be the super wild one. But in reality, most of the time, the 16-year-old who's unschooled is going to be the one to be like, hey guys,
I mean, the
try and
freaking
be,
loser.
let's
Tuzzer.
try and be
Yeah, Mark's just a freaking loser. He's just invited
like, just like, well, here's the thing
pick up
though.
his ass, but he can't do it. He doesn't have fun.
Well, here's the thing though. Like,
Excuse me.
for things like this, it's different. Also, Neil, you're one to talk, Mr. Like, oh, well, actually. But
Actually, that's false, and I'm not going to articulate myself in a.
I never.
And,
I don't know why. Neil
but the other thing is, I also try and be the best at like making sure people feel comfortable enough to ask questions around me. So I try and be pretty outgoing. But also, I can be a scary looking guy sometimes because I'm like really tall and my fashion sense is like leather with spikes and stuff. So people are generally intimidated by me.
True story.
and
The
then
first time
find
I saw
out-
Martin, I thought he was going to mug me.
and then like
True
find out I'm
story.
unschooled.
Story time.
Story time.
Like find out I'm unschooled and also I wear spiky leather. It gives off a distinct impression. But then like in a group setting like that where I'm the one to be like, guys, this isn't a good idea. That's how people start to set you apart in your brain, in like their brain as, oh, this one's like the good kid or whatever. And like, that's just like a way that I try and deflect those comments is I find if I'm making sure that I'm like being like not well behaved because it's not like I'm bad behaved, but like making sure that I'm presenting myself in a way that's like respectable, like a decent human being, I get a lot less of those questions than I would if I was dancing around shirtless. Because, you know, if we're all like, if I was dancing around shirtless with all those guys, the person who'd get it like in the most trouble and the most talking to would be the unschooler. Because he doesn't go to school and he needs to be talked to about how to be disciplined.
I think a Freudian slip will be taken a lot more seriously if you're an unschooler or a Sudbury schooler than anyone else. Like if you make one simple mistake, like I don't know, like something that like not like necessarily a mistake as in just a random mistake, but a mistake that, let's say, something you learn in school, just even if it's just like a slip of, oh shoot, missed that or do that.
Yeah, it's like I think it makes me stand up to a higher class of like.
Yeah, you're gonna be held up to a higher standard, even though you feel like people should, if the people's preconceived notions of you really rang true, you'd think that they would actually hold you to a lower standard.
Like you have to, yeah, like I definitely have gotten like if I mess up something like some math problem, then and I mess it up like just a small thing, it's like, oh well, you're just stupid, I guess.
Yeah,
like more as a joke, but it definitely
yeah, but it's definitely there. So like
it's not like it's not treated as much as oh shoot, actually it's this.
Yeah, it's
forgot. It's yeah.
It sounds strange to say, and I know everyone always says like be the best you can possibly be, but really when if you want to avoid more of the awkward questions, try and make sure that what you do you're good at.
Mm.
Like and like obviously that's what you should do in life just in general, is to like try and be good at the things that you do to like earn money and like stuff like that. But especially with like things like that where like people are going to question your intelligence, obviously try your best, but don't let it get to you if people treat you differently, because at the end of the day, you're going to be in their mind as the unschooled kid, and you could be more educated than them about things, and they'll still think of you as the unschooled kid. But what you got to try and do is make sure that doesn't get to you, because eventually you're not going to be just the unschooled kid. Like, at first you'll be that. Like, everyone will be a little skeptical. And, like, for in that question, it said, like, family. How is family going to treat you? Personally, I've kind of lucked out with in terms of family members and how they feel. The only thing I get asked a little bit more often than I'd like to be asked is, so, where are you going to college? Because I don't want to go to college. But anyways, like, I've lucked out. My family basically just treats me like a normal person for the most part. Like, of course, there's always, like, the not so, like, after, like, your uncle, like, your great uncle has had, like, a few drinks, and he asks you, like, the not so pleasant question of, like, so how do you learn math? It's like, it's just, that's a little awkward. But for the most part, in my experience, family and extended family will mostly be civil about it. And if they do have doubts, for me, when I get asked questions, it's usually very civil, but that's also just my experience with my family.
My experience is like, so my dad's side, like we don't really, I guess my dad grew up being Jewish, but we don't really do anything. I guess we celebrate like a few of the holidays. We go to my cousin's house. Well, not really it's my dad's cousin's house. And we go there, and his whole side goes to those kinds of parties. But my dad doesn't. It's funny, my dad does not like parties, so normally it's just my mom who goes, and my mom grew up Catholic. So that's kind of funny. But they are very, like, well, where are you going to college? Like, they're like the classic, like, kind of like New Yorker Jewish family. Like, it's real. Like, they own, like, where are you going to college? Where are you going to college? How do you learn? It's, like, much more upfront about everything. And then my mom's side, who I'm much closer with my mom's side than on my dad's side, they, either they get it or they're just kind of ignorant about it. Like, they just don't really get it. And not like they're against it, they just don't get it. Like, they don't really, I don't know. But either they get it or they
There's some people who will never get it. That's something, yeah.
Like, my aunt, I must have explained it to her like 3 times, and she still doesn't.
But the other thing is, like, you don't have to prove yourself to anyone.
No, you don't.
Like, if you want to avoid, like, to space what I said, if you want to avoid awkward conversations and sometimes confrontations, it's best to present yourself as the best you can possibly be.
I would say we have to move on kind of soon.
But also, just, like, real quick, in general, no one's opinion of you really matters in the long run, as long as you don't take it as, like, if they have constructive criticism. But if they're just like, you're stupid because you don't sit in a classroom 8 hours a day, that's not constructive, and it's blatantly wrong. So just ignore it.
All right. Let's move on. Thank you for that question. We are now move on to next question by Bria Bloom. She actually set up this whole thing. Hello, what do you think is the most important thing for adults, parents, facilitators, and mentors to know when working in self-directed communities such as Sudbury Schools or parenting a self-directed young person such as unschoolers? Okay, so that's a good question.
I'll answer the parents of unschoolers side of things, because that's the side I'm most experienced with. So I think there's 2 extremes that I see a lot. There's, like, the conservative, like, homeschoolers. They're like 8 hours homeschool a day. You're not allowed to leave the house. Like, the super sheltered. And then there's the opposite side, which is almost not, like, too much freedom, but just not enough guidance that nothing's really happening. Like, there are definitely still unschooled kids who sit doing not a lot. And that's not necessarily bad. But I've definitely met some unschoolers who just, like, are not necessarily, like, socially up to date, and just, it's not that they have too much freedom, it's that their parents don't really give them guidance on what to learn.
And that's
On,
not
like,
saying
what
parents should force their kids to learn. It's just saying,
Yeah, but just like actually help them figure out like what they might want to do so that they're not just sitting playing Minecraft all day. Not that that's bad, it's just not necessarily good, and it's not
I have actually, I've seen that like multiple times.
Yeah.
What's more important, what's more important than just trying to expose your kids to things is trying to understand and teach them social norms.
Yeah.
That is something
Definitely.
more important because the social norms, with that, I feel will come learning. And I think it's the job of, in Sudbury Schools, it's peers' job and staff members. With unschooling, it's peers, but to a much bigger extent.
Neil, your mom did a shit job doing that.
Oh, the first time I met Neil, I'm pretty sure he called me ignorant about something. I'm not sure.
You are ignorant about something, Martin.
Probably not. We were talking about like something stupid though. Like it was like one of those things where like we were just having a normal conversation, and then you were like, "You're ignorant," and I was like, "Talking about like Doctor Who, dude. Calm down."
Yeah, but if you're ignorant about something, it doesn't matter what it is about.
Well, anyways,
Martin's just really insecure that I called that one time. I called him ignorant one time, and he's trying to get me back.
Yeah, that one time you called me ignorant about Doctor Who. Yeah,
I've been really happy about that my parents.
Okay.
I feel like I'm pretty good with picking up social cues.
Yeah, well, for me,
yeah, because everyone who picks up social cues normally says that. I'm pretty good
at picking up social cues. But he says as he sits in a room with like a couple who are very clearly like locking eyes, and you're just there like, "Hey guys, want to watch a movie?" Yeah. Anyways, but like, there's definitely a middle of the road that you can find.
Martin, you don't have to project, okay?
Like a middle of the road that you can find between like you're going to sit and play Minecraft, and I'm going to go downstairs and meditate all day. And like, you're going to sit here for 8 hours straight, and you're going to learn the basics of every single subject. And then you're going to study those subjects meticulously until you're 20 years old, and you're not allowed to date until you're 16, and like all of these rules and restrictions, because either one of those, if you're not exposed, like either one of those is sheltering in a way. It's just a very, one is like they're sheltering them on accident, and the other one is you're sheltering them on purpose. Very
like my dad,
on purpose.
My dad, he so we went to the restaurant that I've been working at, and my dad's friend happened to be there. So they were talking about the school, and they were saying, "Oh, well, I'd love to send my kids there, but like it's just the money's the issue." My dad was like, "Well, actually, the money is not an issue because you just pay whatever you can pay."
It's financial. Yeah, we have financial.
Yeah, we have financial aid. But then my dad started to go into it, was like, you know, like a big thing is like trusting your kids, and it was like crazy. Like this guy, he takes away his kids' phones at 9 o'clock. I mean, you're not allowed to date before 16. And like you check your phone, he checks their phone like every single day. Like fuck. My parents have never done that ever, or even thought about it.
Yeah, but like, yeah. So there's two different sides of the spectrum, and I think to like help parents understand unschooling, if they want to do it or if they just are interested in it, that's a very, it's not a one thing. It depends on the child and it depends on the parents. But really quick, like to flip that question around, I think there's also an issue of kids that need to understand like your parents are still doing, like unschooling is not easy, not necessarily
No,
easy
it's not.
to like unschool your kids, and it's also not easy socially because the amount of questions my dad and mom get about like unschooling like daily is just baffling. So it's like they have like the stock response that's like, well,
yeah, I think everyone involved in like the self-directed learning community has the stock response developed.
Yeah, but like I think they're definitely the biggest thing for unschooling. The thing that would work both ways and just all around is like trust and communication, which just sounds like you could give that advice to like anyone in any situation as two good things to help. But
I'd say the main thing is just trust. I think I agree with you, Martin.
Yeah, like if you can trust that your child will actually learn things, if you give them some guidance, and people learn things, like people study things meticulously. That's like that. There are definitely different levels. There are people who are fine with just like the base level of knowledge, and then there's people who are like, I'm gonna learn all there is to know about like modular synthesizers or whatever. And
Like I thought it was really interesting at one of our open houses, school's open houses. Somebody was like, well, what if my kid just sits there and does nothing all day? And this other guy who was there, who was from another Sudbury school, just wanted to pop in. He was like, that would be he was like, I would give a child $100 if they sat in a room for an entire year and did absolutely nothing.
oh yeah,
It's like, it would be impossible.
exactly. Like this regularly happens to me where I'll have like my one day at home because I'm a busy person. So it'll be like, this is my day at home. I'm just gonna like sit and relax, and I'll end up like spending 6 hours researching some project, and I've built something. Like my dad gets home from work, like, oh, how's your down day? It's like, oh, well, I built a computer. Like just things like that. Like I can't. My brain doesn't turn off. I want to be doing something.
I'm not, okay, this isn't me trying to like, I don't want to go into like to use kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of unsavory terms. I don't want to turn this into like a circle jerk or anything, but I mean, I feel like, yeah, if I'll like to look into something like I tend to like know quite a few things, but just random topics. I'm not trying to like.
Well, no, you're not brat. Like that's the other thing is like when we always do these shows, just like this is completely side note, you can always tell like when we're trying really hard not to brag, even like if we know we're definitely well informed on a subject, we're always like, well, I kind of know about this, and 5 minutes later, like when we've actually brought up the subject, one of us
You fucking idiot!
yeah, like it goes so escalates so quickly because I think we're all like on like this like the smarty kind of people, and we've all had that experience where like we're talking and the other person's just like, dude, shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're stupid.
If you're gonna have that experience with them like every single goddamn day.
Well, I mean,
that happens to Neil every single conversation he has.
yeah, like so. I think we're definitely all a little self-conscious of it. So, anyways, go into what you were saying.
Yeah. So I think I think a lot of unschoolers who I think develop the social cues. I think it's less of a problem with Sudbury schoolers simply because they have the peer-to-peer process. I think with unschooling, it's kind of the parents and the peers' job to not educate the kids socially, but just inform them about social aspects, right? Because I feel like getting the social aspects really is the catalyst for learning, right? And I think that's one of the main reasons I like to go and just research, stuff, right? It's because I like to know a lot about just random topics. I think it's just really fun. And
yeah,
it's
I definitely go through, as an unschooler, I definitely go through phases. Like last year this time, I was obsessed with political science. I was obsessed with it. And then now this year, I'm learning about modular synthesizers because it's like frequency, but it's like taking like electricity and converting it to sound like directly. It's all very interesting. And it's like people are like, well, what are you going to do with that knowledge when you grow up? And it's like, well, what are you going to do with like any of the things you learn in school? Like I could find a job as a producer, or like I could do.
And also, first of all, you're talking about that with a person right now, so it's literally you using the knowledge.
Yeah.
This hypothetical person that anyone's talking to that says that clearly has no critical thinking skills because they do not realize that, oh, wait a minute, we're talking about the situation right now.
Well, that's a little extreme, but yeah.
No, it's not. It's not. They're idiots.
It's not. I
They
would
have
say
no
too.
critical
I
thinking.
would say too to like someone that was thinking about sending their kids to an unschooling, like to some kind of unschooling or Sudbury schools, like have your motives set. Like
Sending your kids to unschooling.
Well, it's like starting unschooling or going to a Sudbury school. It's like clearly define for yourself what the reasons are you're sending your child to. I don't know if you're starting unschooling or going to a Sudbury school. Is like, because I know we've definitely had parents that come to the school that first off don't even understand what's going on or what the whole thing is about, which is astonishing, honestly, that they have no idea. Like we had one kid that was going for a year and the mom literally had no idea what he was doing the entire time. I was like, this is so retarded. And the kid wasn't even that, stupid.
So I want to touch.
But also we've had, other parents that, seem like they just want to be edgy and just, want to be, oh, look at this. I'm sending my child to an alternative.
We don't send our children to public school because public school is run by our filthy fascist society.
Yeah, it's like, look at my kid. He's so much better than yours because he goes to an alternative school.
He's part of the communist uprising.
Yeah. You have to figure out.
Communism.
I think like a lot of parents just have to figure out for themselves, like, I'm sending my kid here because either, you genuinely don't think the public school, like public education is I don't know, ethically good thing, or just overall good for your child. Or like have clear motives, like ethical motives why you're going to send your child to.
Yeah. Also, this is more of a joke, but you're going to get your parents and you will probably have to get really good at sneakily calling it homeschooling. Because it's a pain to, like, you say, oh, I'm homeschooled. Everyone's like, oh, okay. But you say, oh, I'm unschooled. And everyone's like, oh, well, what's that?
Yeah, I definitely have tried to avoid it a lot. If I'm not in the mood, I'm like, oh, fuck. It's like I get a lot of prank phone calls. Not like prank, like it's like scammer phone calls. And I like to mess with them. It's like, do I really want to mess with this guy right now? Like, I might do it later.
Yeah.
And so it's like
every time I get a scammer call, I absolutely screw with them.
No, I get them 3 times. I get them 5 times a day.
So I'm a metal vocalist, so when I get a scammer call, I answer in my hello voice.
The last scammer call that I had, I talked to this guy for a really long time about my credit card or something. I was like, okay, sir, I'm with the IRS and we need the American government or something like that, like a thick Indian accent. He's just like, so sir, let me ask, and you could hear the people talking in the back, and you could tell it was a call center. You could hear the people talking in the background. But he's like, so sir, I need to get your credit card number so we can then help you with your credit card debt, which makes no fucking sense, whatever. So I'm like, okay, all right, so I'm gonna start now, okay? And he's like, yes, sir. And I say, okay, all right, 1. He says, okay. I said, that's it. And he said, okay, sir, you can shove your credit card up your ass. But that was a nice little side thing.
No, but it's like the thing is like, do I really want to explain to them right now, or just want to wait for the next person that's going to ask me the same fucking thing? And I'll answer it then. I had this last guy talk to me because because the other guy I was talking to shares a friend with me, and he thought that we go to the same school. It's like, no, I go to another school. And he's like, oh, what school do you go to? It's like, fuck, do I really want to get into this? I was like,
I know. I get that all the time.
I was like, I just go to a school in Medford. He was like, oh, okay. But
yeah, I really hate it. Like, if someone asks me what grade I'm in, I say, oh, I'm in 10th grade. And it's like, please don't freaking ask any other questions.
Normally to that, I always say, like, I think I would be in 10th grade. And that normally confuses people enough, but it doesn't make them want to ask any more questions.
Yeah, well, like, if you
just confuse them enough so they never talk to you again.
Yeah. Like, this kid's
like, what do you mean? It's
what is this guy?
What the fuck is this kid talking about?
Maybe in 10th grade, what the fuck? Sorry. It's like,
yeah. But
it's like enough to where, like, don't talk to me again, okay?
Yeah, it's just, what's really sad is, like, I have conversations regularly with people who just...
I would hope so.
Who just hate school. Oh, yeah, Dylan, you're so funny. Your sarcastic comments are so witty and so awesome. You should just go be a stand-up comedian.
Thank you. I was thinking about it.
Yeah, I know.
Dylan's just an asshole. He just like
you could just go up on stage and like just literally start making fun of every single person.
Just go on stage.
Hey,
just be a dick.
You look like a fucking idiot.
Where do you think I get it from? Neil?
Well, no, Neil is way more. Neil just likes to like talk down to people. That's his fault.
Well, when someone's
as you can see, it, blatant sarcasm.
Yeah, Neil is just calling people fucking idiots.
Yeah.
It's
what are you saying that, Martin?
Anyways, like, I don't even remember remotely what I was saying. Should we move on to the next part of the question?
You were talking about how you have conversations.
That was the entire question. We should actually probably move on to the next question now.
Yeah, because we've spent a lot of time on this one.
All right. So the next question, let me just...
While he's doing that, the best is when Neil's wrong about something, but he doesn't know how to admit it, so he just
keeps rolling with it.
Yeah, he keeps arguing devil's advocate for everything.
Me and Neil got into that a couple days ago about Bernie Sanders.
No.
Wait,
you're wrong.
I would like to say I kicked Neil's ass.
You did not. I asked you about the whole gun thing. You're like, I don't know. I'll look that up and I'll talk to you.
And then you got, oh my God, Neil, you were just so retarded about that whole thing.
You were so dumb. You just made broad claims.
Don't get him started on net neutrality because we all know how that went last time.
Yeah, Martin was too much of a coward even talking. Like, oh, my dad destroyed you on net neutrality. Log off.
Yeah, well, that was just a joke. Wasn't actually being serious about that. Also,
Yeah.
you calling me a coward, dude? We've met
I actually
before.
think that the
I could
weakest
solve
argument that
conversations
made
with
was
things
on
that
net
aren't my
neutrality.
words if you wanted to.
I think that the weakest argument made was on net neutrality. Everything else was pretty solid. In my
That you
opinion,
made?
that's what I thought.
Or who made?
Your dad.
I think you're just salty. But anyways, let's move on.
You just said, okay. All right.
Neil's crying.
Like inside, he's
Scared
like,
to show up on our net neutrality podcast.
I just think it's it's
I
just
was
very
wrong.
funny. Well, I just don't like arguing with you because you're very frustrating to argue with.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll get you a bottle of milk. Oh, Neil made fun of me. He called me a poo-poo head. I can't argue with him.
It has nothing to do with your insulting. It has everything to do with your blatant disregard for your own mortality of thought, dude. You're not the smartest person in the world.
What? That is such a straw man. Oh, instead of actually arguing, I'm just gonna make a random.
What are we even arguing about, dude? You're supposed to be reading a
Now
question.
that I'm wrong, I'm now gonna say that Neil should have been reading the
Dude,
question.
this-
Now
is
that I
this
know
what
I
you
made
do
lots
every
of
day,
fallacies
Dylan?
and I know I'm an idiot. Now I'm
Dylan,
gonna
is this what
say
you do
that
every way?
Mhm.
This is so fun.
Martin, when you knew you were wrong, you said, Neil, shouldn't you be reading the question and not humiliating me on live stream? Also, I can see like veins popping out of your forehead. Anyways, I'll now move on to
I mean,
Oh my god.
it's so fun to egg you on though, because it's
this
just
question is mostly for Martin. I'm interested in your process of learning and mastering different musical instruments, including voice. What does your self-teaching process look like for each one?
Who asked
Do
this
you ever work
question?
with teachers, and if so, what makes you decide you need one?
From
Who asked
mom.
this question?
From mom.
Yeah, like just like my mom's like getting on, like asking me questions.
This was
Good job, Marty.
This was Scott. I don't know how to pronounce that. Noel or Noel. Yeah, Noel or Noli. Yeah. He also helped set this whole thing up.
Oh, cool. So, for me, for instruments and like just things like this, so what my process was, I started playing drums in church band when I was 7 years old. And to answer your question, I've never taken a lesson for anything except for piano with my grandmother for like a year when I was like 4. And I started playing guitar when I was 12. And I joined my first band when I was 12. And we sucked. And it's basically just been a process of trial and error. The first album I tried to record was recorded on a free download multi-track recorder app that I got on my phone, and it was very, very rough and the songs were okay, but basically my way of learning how to play instruments was just listening to a lot of music and practicing along with a lot of music. So how I learned to play drums was I had a record player next to my electric drum set. I bought the records I liked, and I played drums to them. So that was my drum teacher, was Songs for the Deaf by Queens of the Stone Age. And then how I learned how to play guitar was just I ended up on guitar in a band without really knowing how to play guitar. So I kind of learned as a necessity in order to continue to make that. And as I continued with that process, I picked up bass and vocals and things like that. And then as I started to get a little bit better at it, I started to figure out more of like what my sound would be. And then I got friends asking me like, hey, could you help me out with this? And like, I started to learn how to produce and do other style of production. And I have a very, very wide range of music that I listen to, which has helped me with producing music because I can go into like my home studio that I built and I can make an EDM track, but I could also go make like a 13-minute metal song. And it basically just all started with an incredible like love for music and like really admiring what music does to the human condition, because it's a really powerful thing that like everyone in the world has music that like that's theirs, for like not everyone, but most people, that there's music that there's some song out there that connects with them in a way. And that fascinated me a lot. So I wanted to be someone who could connect with people. And for the mastering and mixing part, I use GarageBand because it's free. And once again, it's just trial and error. I look up YouTube tutorials, and I don't even look up tutorials. I listen to like a lot of for mixing, I listen to a lot of records that I like, and I watch interviews with the producers of those records. Because no one ever watches them except for music nerds, but you can find interviewers with producers where they talk about what they do, and I try and mimic that. So it's still like I'm still learning. That's probably the thing I'm the newest at is the recording process. But I basically just put most of my effort into making sure I can get it to sound good enough that the actual music does the work. Because a lot of it's more rock stuff, so it doesn't need to be a super like solid production, but I need it to be good enough that you can actually understand what's happening. It's not just like the whole time. And I've also tried my best to collaborate with the widest range of musicians that I could. So like church band to like random 25-year-old hippie dude that I met to like my friends. And then I also try to like teach some people how to play music. And I'm in a lot of bands, which helps me learn how to like interact with other musicians because I'm a DIY kind of person, so I tend to want to do things myself. So being in a band helped me learn how to accept criticism and how to like work with other people to reach a goal. So basically it all started with liking music. And I did not have any teachers. And obviously I ask people for help if I'm stuck on something. But for the most part, it's trial and error. I have no joke over 300 recorded songs that probably only about 15 of them have been heard by people that aren't me. And all of those can just show like the progression because like the first one is me humming into my phone at 12 years old with like an out of tune guitar playing one single chord over and over again. And now the newest one is like the thing that I just released with my band that we just put out an album last week. And there's definitely, you can see, and something that I noted when I was looking back through the recordings the other day is it's almost sounds like traveling through time of recording equipment. Like because I basically just started from the most basic thing I had to build up to like something more modern. And if you listen to the songs in order, you can hear that and you can like hear the progression. And then I think back to like how I learned how to do that. And it's almost always just been musicians I idolize and songs. So there you go.
Very nice.
So do you want to move on? Because you should probably start actually answering the questions a little faster now.
Because we took way too long.
All right. So let's move on. Lucy Hazel says, hello, I would like to know what you feel are the biggest obstacles that you as a self-directed learner or if you are aware of any peers that find it harder than others. So what are the biggest obstacles that you face as a self-directed learner, and are you aware of any peers that find it harder than others? Okay. So yes.
Trying to get people to understand that I can still learn a decent amount of information with Google that you can with a teacher.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything?
Wait, well, sorry, what was the question?
Wait, Martin, I don't think did I answer the question? What are the biggest obstacles you face as a trying to get people. Okay. The answer does make sense. All right. What are the biggest obstacles you face as a self-directed learner? And are you aware of any peers that find it harder than yourself or others?
I think we kind of already answered it, didn't we?
Yeah, we kind of already touched on that. Well, if we want to go into less about...
no, we should touch on it because the problem is that I'm literally linking these people like the timestamp of the video. And yeah. I can't just be like, we answer that. Please watch the entire video too.
Well, you can just time.
Okay.
You can just send them the timestamp of when we talked about it.
This is a pointless argument.
Much about a long podcast to find exactly when we were talking about that, Dylan.
Okay, guys, calm down, children.
Sorry,
this is when no one invites Martin to parties. He's like, I happen to be very reasonable and very well read. Also,
yeah, because you guys are going to so many parties. Everyone knows you, Neil. You guys live in the club life.
We do.
More than you.
You'd be surprised. Anyways,
Oh, I happen to be very cool, okay?
I happen to be the coolest one on the block.
What were you saying,
Um,
Martin?
I was just gonna say, like, we could go, because, like, for me, that answer would be always people's perception. But if we want to get to more like the actual physical limitations of self-directed learning, which there aren't a lot, but there's still some, which is just like sometimes reading articles on Google aren't the same as hear it. Like for some people, it's easier to hear it spoken to them in a classroom than it is to hear, like to read it on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess for me on certain subjects that I've tried to research, it's been better for me to find like a lecture online explaining it rather than reading it. But that's not so much of I guess it's kind of an obstacle. It's just not one that's hard to get over.
Yeah. Sorry, I gotta grab something on the floor. I know what you mean. Like, I haven't had too many things like that because if I'm ever interested in something that much, I just go and find it, like live. But I haven't had too like. I don't really know.
Yeah, for me, the obstacles are always how people perceive you. I've never really had a lot of real obstacles in what I'm doing. It's always been like what people think of you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
obstacle for me.
Well, first touching on the whole thing about peers, I think some unschoolers, not a lot, some unschoolers, we just touched on this, have problems with socialization. Not all, not even the majority, not even a significant percentage. I'm not trying to give out statistics here. I'm just saying that I've seen some unschoolers that have some social difficulties or are just completely uninterested in everything else. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think the social aspect is, again, as I said earlier, the catalyst for learning in a lot of ways. And I think if that isn't nurtured and or encouraged by either A, your peers if you're in a Sudbury school, or B, if you're an unschooler, you can come across as very socially awkward and not able to read on certain social cues.
Yeah, I think another thing that happens is it gets generalized in, though, because I think a lot of parents who find out their children has like Asperger's or autism pull their children out of school because the treatment of people with those particular disabilities it's like really horrible in the school system. So I think that can also attribute to how some people would see unschoolers as awkward. But also at the same time, I think, yeah, I don't know. It's just, there's definitely obstacles, but none of them are big enough to that I can think of them. Like there's definitely been times where I've been like, well, this would be a little less difficult if I wasn't unschooled, but like it's never been something that has been big enough of an issue for me to like remember right now.
I know I haven't had really much of a problem.
Yeah. I mean,
what are you saying, Neil?
I guess for me personally, well, I want to touch on something else. A study done by Dr. Peter Gray and Dr. Gina Riley on unschooling adults reference these are like adults who are, the vast majority of them are financially independent.
Unschooled adults or unschooling adults?
Unschooled adults, as in they were unschooled and now they are adults and most of them are financially independent. These are, again, adults, fully grown adults. The majority of them listed the number one problem with their lifestyle was having to talk to people that just didn't understand it, like outright, just didn't understand it. These are not kids saying like, oh, it was just the guy that annoyed me that one time. These are adults, and most of them have jobs and are completely financially independent, and they listed that should really tell you something.
Yeah, like people underestimate the actual like emotional and just like the emotional long-term damage of constant
questioning of your entire life.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's definitely times where you can brush off your shoulders, but there's definitely times, I think it probably hurts the most with people that you know, where you feel like they really don't approve of like what your life is. That's definitely, that people tend to forget that's actually like, I don't think that necessarily anyone means anything by it, but people tend to forget that that's emotionally damaging long term to be like a 12-year-old kid and have like your parents' friend or like your friend or just someone in your life who's important to you question your entire like existence, essentially, like, because that's what you're doing. That's like a part of you. Unschooling, like learning on your own, is definitely something that's important.
If you talk to the average adult who goes to public school, they'll say that schooling was a very big part of their lives. That's the majority of your life, basically, when you're a kid.
Yeah, that like
questions the majority.
I know
of
it definitely takes a little bit to like
get used to it.
to get used to it because
it
hurts after a while.
It, like, even after you get used to it, there's definitely some days you wake up and someone says something very minor, and it's like all of those things that didn't bother you as much then, like they all come back. Like it's just
the majority of these people putting the scrutiny on you. If you and the average, I would say the average like Sudburyan or unschooler can articulate themselves rather well. If you try to put that scrutiny on their life, there would be probably a hostile response. However, unschoolers and Sudbury schoolers are, again, have this high standard of you need to articulate yourself very well.
Yeah, like
and that's not fair.
But like the other thing that's difficult about being unschooled, like besides the emotional endurance that you need to develop to be able to handle constant questioning of everything you do, is like learning how to realize that people think less of you. That not everyone, but there are people that you'll encounter who will think less of you, and that you need to make sure that doesn't let you like make you feel less of you. Because like there are currently in America, we have not great mental health. People are not doing so hot, and you like people really never know what's going on in another person's head. Like when you when you say something as like what could be perceived as casual, as casually just like yanking your chain or whatever, and like just being like, hey, you need to just go to school and then you know things. Like if you say that in a way where like people like you actually mean it a little bit, but you're kind of joking about it because you don't want to flat out say it, to like someone who's down on their luck and isn't feeling so great, that could be devastating. And I'm not one of those people that's like, we need to make sure that everything's a safe space for people.
Yeah.
That's not how I feel at all.
Just be considerate.
It's not hard to be kind.
Yeah.
Being
if
kind
you're asking questions, make sure it comes from a place of if you're asking questions, make sure it comes from a place of curiosity.
Yeah.
And not just curiosity, but even if it's not, and you genuinely think what this person's doing is harmful, be respectful and have some empathy and put yourself in their shoes. And what if I was getting this certain scrutiny on my life decisions?
Yeah. And the number one thing that we keep coming back to is you're you no matter what other people tell you you are. So if other people tell you you're the tall, spiky leather jacket unschooler kid who needs to go back to Nashua, like that doesn't mean that that's you, because you're still you.
Except if you're Martin, that means then that is you.
Well, I mean, technically, yeah, if it is you, like, but if people try and label you as being one thing, and that one thing is a negative light of, like, a negative inflection of a first impression of you, when they don't, like, when that becomes their label for you and don't get to know you, you can't let that bother you. I've experienced that with someone who was pretty close to me recently, where I basically found out that they just thought of me as, like, this thug, which, like, no, I'm not kidding. When I talk about people thinking I'm, like, scary, I found out recently that someone who I was very close with actually found me, like, very intimidating. Because of my choice in, like, you talk to me for 2 seconds, I'm the nerdiest kid you know, but because I'm, like, tall and I wear spiky leather, people just assume I'm going to, like, murder them, apparently.
I don't think I've ever gotten that where someone thinks I'm going to murder them. Not yet, at least.
Well, I mean, you haven't asked
definitely
me.
Neil. Neil,
well,
Neil, I definitely thought Neil was going to
I
kill
come off as a closeted murderer because I look
Closeted.
I don't think anyone would think
no, because look, because I remember
capable of
specifically,
knowing
I came to school and Dylan was like, oh my god, Neil, you look like the preppiest little fuck. Because I had like a Go shirt, and like, so I wear very nerdy clothes, like exact opposite of what
Oh
you
yeah,
do.
I'm aware.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. And I feel like so yeah, I come across that, and I feel like there's something dark lurking underneath.
The way I see
Feel-
it is like there's 3 stereotypes for unschooler. There's like
Socially inept.
the socially inept kid with the super long hair who's wearing a fedora, shirtless, playing Minecraft in his basement.
It's funny because that's probably the most.
That's like so many people though. Like not so many, but enough that like all the people who are like that, like you have an image in your head of a friend of yours that's like that. I guarantee you, both of you do. And I do too.
His name's
And
Neil.
and then there's like the super like, well actually, who just like the know-it-alls. That one's me. And then there's the one that like is just a little like nerdy, doesn't have the best social cues, also Neil.
Also Neil.
Are you just describing me? Like, I don't understand what you're talking about.
So like nerdy, socially inept, know-it-all. That's just Neil. Anyways, is there another question?
So yeah. So let me just real quick there. What is this? Yeah. All right. So the next question is from Jim Flannery.
Oh wow, that guy, he seems pretty
What
cool.
a fucking loser. Like, look at it. He looks like... You're talking about me being the preppiest little fuck? Oh my god, you should see his profile pic. This guy looks like a real asshole, seriously. Anyways.
Full disclosure, we know this guy. Just so you know. This is a friend of ours. We're not just roasting people who are asking us questions.
Well, this guy looks like a real fucking loser, right? All right, anyways. Do you think young people can be trusted to make decisions about their own education when they lack the career and life experience of adults? How can this trust be built? So do you think, the first part of the question, do you think young people can be trusted to make decisions about their own education when they lack the career and life experience as adults? So education, I don't think necessarily correlates to career life experience. I think this is something that I think, and while I do think that being, just saying I have more experience than you because I'm an adult is not a valid argument, I think it's also something to acknowledge that some people may have more experience on something than you do because of their age. That being said, that shouldn't be a determining factor. You actually have to prove that independently of the fact that you are that age. So basically, while that may ring true, if you have more experience on a certain topic because of your age, you have to independently prove that and not just say, I am this age, therefore I have more experience on this. But should youth be able to make the choice on education? So well, I don't really think that, so first of all, I really don't think that career correlates to that much for life experience. I think it's a learning process. I think you could say the same thing about 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds getting a job or having in college. And I think that, and I really think, so I guess that's what I think.
Wait, so can you restate the question one more time?
Yeah. Do you think young people can be trusted to make decisions about their own education when they lack the career life experience of adults? Yeah.
For me, I have a lot to say on this. I'm not going to say all of it because there is a lot, but basically it is way more complicated than just a simple black and white answer. I think if someone, it is, trust me, you're not going to get in with me on this because it will not work out well for you.
Excuse me.
Well, I have like multiple people who I have like examples of. Anyways, so I'm going to use a few examples for this. I think it is, like most things, it comes down to trust. So if you have a kid who's in school who's like hating it and they beg their parents to take them out of school to like try something else, and like they get taken out of school and the kid just wants to sit and just do nothing for a little bit.
I think you have to trust them to do that.
You have to, like, that. Here's the thing, though. So parents need to know how to trust kids to do that, because they will get the incentive to want to learn again. But kids need to know that their parents are taking a huge thing here and doing a lot for you by giving you that trust. So don't betray it.
I want to interrupt really quick. I just say this really quick. We should try to make each question kind of quick because 3 more people actually posted.
Okay,
So,
I'm going to go quickly. So basically, I think it's a parent-child relationship thing, and you need to build a trusting system where both the child trusts the parent and the parent trusts the child. And if you don't have that loop of trust, then it's not going to work out the way it should, and there'll be problems. Because a kid who's in public school isn't going to want to be pulled out of public school to do more learning at home right away. There needs to be a period of like
Doing nothing.
doing nothing, but not a long, like enough that they can know what they want to learn and just kind of calm down from it. And I think parents need to trust that their kids aren't just going to become a vegetable who lives on the streets if they don't want to be in school, because that's blatantly wrong. It like if you pull your child out of school and he goes home because he wants to unschool and he doesn't immediately start becoming an entrepreneur, that doesn't mean he's going to like, and you have to trust that your kid isn't going to just,
And I
no
would
one
say
wants
too,
to sit at
I
home
think-
all day doing nothing for the rest of their life.
I think there's like a period too, just for the parent, like a transitioning period.
Yeah,
it's like-
definitely.
It's not just like a normal unschool, like normal life.
And kids
Like,
need
it took
to
a long time for
understand
my mom, like to like really get it. And I
Exactly.
I don't know if still like a million% gets it.
That's the other part. is
million
kids-
percent. Dylan, you really should go to public school.
Kids-
No, well,
I know,
you know
the
it.
most you can get is
Kids-
2,000,000%, right?
well, you know what I
Kid-
mean. It's like not,
Kids
she's very, very, very close.
kids need to understand that it is definitely a big transition for parents too, and that needs to be like mutually respected. Also,
Yes.
really, really quick, for the album I just dropped, you can go to the analytics on Spotify, and it said the analytics for the song, how many people are listening to the song, has gone up by 665%. And this is on the official Spotify website. So that I was like, what? That's really high. I'm confused. Anyways,
1 person to 7 people.
yeah, like I went up by 665%, and I was like, what does that mean? That's like such a strangely specific number. Anyways, we can go on to the next question.
Dylan, do you want to touch on that real quick?
No, not really.
All right.
I think you guys touched on pretty much everything I had to say.
Yeah, I was gonna. All right. All right, never mind. All right. Ooh, this question's from. 1 second.
Dylan, check your messages in the chat.
This question is from Rick J. What do you think is the best way to promote this form of learning to our current society? How can we make it widespread?
Slowly.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not a good idea to just like present to teachers like everything you're doing is going to be inevitably bad for the child you're teaching.
Jesus Christ, Martin.
Like you got to be slow with
I won't go that far.
Well, that's what I'm saying though.
Everything they're doing.
That's what I'm saying though. Like you got to make sure it's a light, like it has to be something that you don't just.
It's really funny because some of our
Jump
most avid supporters of Sudbury schools are teachers.
Well, yeah, I was just giving like.
No, I know. I'm just saying that it's really funny. And
some of the most avid supporters of my lifestyle that I've met have been teachers because they know how.
It's pretty great because they understand the flaws in the system and they want to change.
Especially the older teachers, not so much the younger students.
Anyways, I would say slowly because we're definitely in an era in like history where I think in 20 years this is going to be remembered as like that time when everyone was losing their minds about everything and everything, like perception of things that seemed normal are no longer that way.
Like, yeah, and like Martin, I agree with you. Like when me and Neil, we went to the ERA conference this summer, and it was pretty funny. There was a guy who was a local superintendent who just started to implement a program of like less homework and more recess. And he's like, he's like talking like he figured this thing out.
But yeah, I discovered.
And it's hilarious. Dylan, Jim, and I are all sitting there going, "What the fuck? This is so."
We all know this. Everyone in this room knows.
Dylan, Jim, and I were just sitting there going, "This is so backwards." Like, we were just sitting there.
But for me, that's
Everyone
like,
knows this.
that doesn't bother me that much because it's like, well, at least they're figuring it out. And even if they
No, I'm
think,
not saying
I
it
don't-
bothers me. I'm just saying
Well,
that compared to
yeah.
the attitude of the Aero conference,
Yeah.
it was really great to see the atmosphere of the room as this guy is either really, really moderate or really, really conservative. Just because I think it's a very funny dynamic and
Yeah.
a very interesting dynamic to see the
And
culture.
it's really funny too, like Finland, which is like literally the most liberal place like in the whole fucking world. they
Clearly, you've never been to California. Anyways, continue.
God, it's like, it's so funny to see it because they just had this, like, they have like some of the best schools in the world, and like they were someone that went, it's like, how'd you do? It was like, all we did, we just stopped giving the kids homework. And they're like, that's it? And he was like, yeah. And they're like, the interviewers from like CBS or something was like, wow, well, we're not fucking doing that, I guess.
Yeah. Just like, I think we're at a point in society where people are way more open to the idea of like, oh, yep, our schools are fucked. Like, there's problems here. We gotta like analyze them a little bit more than we are. Yeah, like, just it's very like, you can look around just in society in general. Things are different now than they were 10 years ago. I talk about that a lot because it's very fascinating to me. But like, I think people are starting to realize more than ever, like, oh, we messed up. Children like want to die all the time. That's not good. We're making them want to self-destruct. What are we doing wrong? It's like, and it's kind of like the way I like to see it in my brain is like the school system is like the computer program and an AI, and the parents are the programmers, and like this, like a society is the programmers, and like the program itself is the children, but the AI keeps shutting itself down every time it starts to like every time it's at like 80%, it shuts down. And like the way I see that in real life is like we're forcing like so much information into children before they're ready and not giving them enough time to process it or do other things other than school all the time, that they're like, oh, well, I'm out. And that's why we have so much like suicide and depression. And people are realizing that, oh, wait, yeah, schools are probably a part of this. And so is bullying. So we already have like all of the anti-bullying thing. And we're also starting to get on the whole schools are not the greatest for children thing. And it's a slow process. But I think one of the things that really started to make me notice that the mainstream was caring was that Boy in a Band video, the rap one that got like went super, super viral.
The Don't Stay in School.
Yeah. Well, funny thing is, the follow-up video to that less people saw was multiple schools actually saw that video and changed their syllabus.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah. So I've definitely seen, like, with the evolution of the internet and how that affects our culture, that affects how we view things like this, because now there's more information to new ideas. So people are seeing, oh, yeah, maybe homework for most of children's, like, maybe constant work for most of a child's waking hours is maybe not a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought his video was really interesting.
Well,
he's an avid supporter of Sudbury Schools, by the way, in case you haven't seen his video. You
No, I
don't
did.
have to go to school.
No, I did. I saw the video. I really liked it. But, so, yeah, I really like...
kind of a little bit like you, Martin. Boy in a Band.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta hurry this along a little bit because...
Okay, so do we want to go to the next question, or you guys have things to say on this one?
Yeah, let me just say one thing, then let's move on. Unless Dylan wants to say something.
Nope.
Okay, so then, yeah, I agree with Martin, basically. It's going to take time, and the best thing you can do is if you're an unschooler or a subject learner or anything like that, articulate yourself well, be polite, and be a good example. Imagine you're going to be the person's perception on everything about this. Not to put pressure on you, but just try to imagine that, and I think that will help just open people up to the idea of it. All right, so.
That's why I don't let Neil go anywhere.
All right, so. All right, so the next question is from Amy C. Schroeds. She says, thanks so much for doing this. What are specific instances you've experienced when you thought it would be it would have been easier if you were not unschooled, if any?
Well, first of all, you're welcome, Amy, and thanks for asking the question.
What made them feel this way? Edit. Heard you address this further in the live stream. Leaving the question here in case you'd like to add any other thoughts on this afterwards. So apparently, I don't remember when we addressed this. Oh yeah, we did address this. There was another kind of question about this, and we did address this. She's leaving the question here basically because we, I guess, already like touched on it a little bit. And
Ask the question one more time.
If you want to add anything on it, basically.
Ask the question one more time.
Yeah. So thanks so much for doing this. What are some specific instances you've experienced when you thought it would be easier if you were not unschooled, if any?
Oh, okay.
What made you feel that way? Edit. Heard you the edit thing.
Yeah, okay. Well, if I can, now that I've had a little bit more time to think about it, there's definitely been times socially where people have, I was having a conversation with someone about like being drug free and like being against that, and they're like, oh well, that doesn't count because you're unschooled. And I was like,
What?
he said homeschool. I was like, I'm unschooled, first of all, and second of all, I guarantee you the unschooled community is way more open to drugs than like wherever you come from. Because like
you can fucking come.
yeah, well yeah, I mean you guys don't see me in person often, but I'm not one to back down from people arguing with me in person if they start a fight. I've gotten in trouble with people about that before because I usually win, whether they like it or not, or whether I'm right or not. Because I'm just an asshole to argue with, even if I'm wrong. Anyways, yeah, that would be my specific instance.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I haven't had anything really like that because I'm lucky. I had a mix of both where I could draw upon a public school.
I think probably like Martin said, maybe the social aspect, but not in the same way he described it. Probably just because when you bring up Sudbury or anything, like it's a lot easier. And people are like, oh, what school do you go to? This school. Oh, who do you have in the teachers in class? It's just weird to stand there when people are talking about that. And it's a lot harder when you're sitting there and you wait for someone and you're like sitting there in dread, waiting for someone to ask you and you have to lecture this person basically. It's so awkward. It's so awkward.
Oh yeah, because you have a real hard time lecturing people.
I know. Well, it's when I have someone that I can't, it's not something that I can't tolerate. It's just that someone, first of all, that person really doesn't care. First of all. Second of all, the only reason they're even addressing it is because of the abnormal thing that I'm doing. There's no actual curiosity there. They're probably not even going to bring up valid criticisms. It's just a socially awkward thing for everyone.
Yeah, it's just awkward. That's probably the only thing any of us would want to change.
I just want to say that the fact that that's probably the biggest problem that I have is kind of...
Oh, that says a lot.
It says a lot. That's the biggest problem I have.
The biggest problem that you have is awkward situations with peers and adults from time to time.
Yeah.
That definitely says a lot on just how free it is. And just, like,
I know, yeah.
Not free money-wise, free, like Merca-wise.
Merca.
Dylan, you have anything to add? Is there a next question?
So, all right, the final question is actually, it actually says, this is not really, so, hi, Dylan, Martin, and Neil. I don't have a question. Just praise and thanks for taking the time to do this AMA and for your wonderfully articulate and intelligent live podcast. I am in awe. Well, you really shouldn't have said that because you're feeding into our ego way more than you realize.
Especially Neil's.
Especially mine.
Someday, I said this in the chat to you, Dylan, but I'm not sure if you saw it. Someday Neil is just going to be actually really wrong about something. And he's just gonna snap, and then he'll become a serial killer. You'll see his brain go, oh no, I'm wrong, and then he'll just be and he'll want to murder everyone.
I have admitted that I have changed my opinion on things because of him.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm just saying if you
one day, One day.
very wrong about something.
So I want to say this because the whole libertarian debate that Martin and I were arguing about, and with
No. I don't want to get into this.
one
right
thing.
now.
No. This isn't going to be a point of contention.
Okay.
I legitimately changed my opinion on one thing because of the conversation with your dad, and that was minimum wage. I didn't really change my opinion as much on anything else. I kind of
You didn't. You thought the minimum wage was good?
No, I just didn't understand it as much, and now I completely understand it. And I had some arguments, I guess, against it, but now I have no arguments for a minimum wage. Literally none.
Yeah.
So that I totally changed my opinion on that. The minimum wage is really stupid, and people are even stupider for trying to raise it because they're really dumb.
Yeah, well, everyone's dumb.
Yeah.
Thank you for like participating.
Yeah, thank you. I mean,
having us to do it, like everyone at the Alliance for Self-Directed Learning. I've been like an avid supporter of the community around this since I was able to understand what that meant. And it's just been like the last few weeks, the various things that we've done, like doing this AMA and interviewing Dr. Peter Gray, has just like really been like dreams come true, because it's like it's just been what I base my points and arguments off of, and getting to be able to be recognized in that community that I've learned so much from. It's just very surreal. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We don't deserve it because we don't really do anything.
We just sit here and rant.
We just sit here and rant and then have stupid arguments where we call each other stupid.
Yeah, that's mainly because you guys are stupid and I'm not. But
yeah, exactly. Like everyone should just learn by now that Neil is always right, except for when he's wrong, which is most of the time. Anyways, so yeah, thank you for participating. I hope we'll be able to do something like this again at some point in the future. And we're a few months away from being 2 years of being a show now, which is pretty insane. The format's changed a lot over the 2-year time period, and I've just really thoroughly enjoyed being a part of it. And I would hope that we can continue for another 3 more years and just keep going and going and going until we're not youth anymore, and then it'll just be subjects of the world by 3 random guys no one cares about.
That's kind of what it already is.
Well, no, because we have youth on our side.
Yeah.
We're young.
But after we're not youth anymore, it's kind of like, what the fuck is he gonna say? It's not
well, so here's the thing. What our job is to do with our different lives that we have lived. And Neil, if you're so confident in your abilities, we'll just have to change the perception of the world before we're adults, so that by the time we have a podcast when we're adults, it will be like we're actually meaningful in some way other than just people marching on into the unknown.
I think, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's kind of it. Is anyone have to say anything about that? I mean, it's kind of, that was the last question.
Oh, we got a comment from the chat. If you guys look in the chat.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Like we're talking about what is SDE? What is that? Self-directed education. Like we're talking about self-directed education, the most groundbreaking theory. And then you say things like, no minimum wage, go capitalism. All right, let's have some fun, boys.
Okay. So, Neil, you want to start?
Time.
Okay. Yeah,
all right. So who wants to start, Martin?
No, you can start. It's more fun watching you do it because you're very like to the point.
Okay, so first of all, the whole thing about the minimum wage is that it basically unemploys a bunch of people that could be employed for even lower skilled work, even if they're getting paid less. It's totally stupid. If it's really, really dumb. If anyone, it basically, but because the thing is, even if we have if we raise the minimum wage or anything like that, it's going to basically put more small businesses out of business, and it's going to have people with having basically no jobs, more people unemployed. I would rather have someone being paid pennies for a job than being paid nothing and living on the street dying. Like I would, and the thing is...
Wait, Neil, like I'll give an example. Like, so for our school, if we wanted to hire a staff member, we have a job, we're willing to pay $10 because that's all we have. All we have is $10 an hour to be able to pay. If the minimum wage is $15 an hour, someone that is willing to work for $10 an hour
Legally cannot do it. Legally cannot do it.
So we are essentially stopping, like now we're going to put that $10 to not, we're not going to give that $10 to someone else. And also there's stupid examples like in Seattle, they raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, which is retarded. And nothing happens.
Inflation. It causes inflation.
And well, nothing happens, but it's impossible to like the liberal argument is that nothing happens in Seattle and they raise the minimum wage, but you're not factoring that this is a study that has no control. Like you can't have two Seattles where one they raised the minimum wage and one they didn't raise the minimum wage kind of thing. Like at the same time, there's a tech boom in Seattle.
And economics does only case examples. There's no study because there's no control.
And honestly, it restricts people from having money. It doesn't let people have money. If someone's like I'm willing to work, and also it's stupid if you're making someone who works as a if you're having a fry cook should not be making a living wage. Like you're a fry cook, you don't need any skills for that. All you do is sit in front of a grill and you flip hamburgers all day. You don't need any skills for that. And the great thing is, like when I'm working at my like the place I've been working at, I get paid $9 an hour, which is barely a living wage if I was actually trying to live off that, which I'm not. It's just kind of like pocket money. And also, I get experience from working there, like just getting there on time, seeing what the social norms are for jobs.
Exactly. Like
it's like I'm also getting paid for that, and also it's stupid when you're trying to start a family when you're working at McDonald's. That's retarded. That's beyond retarded.
Well, calm down a little bit.
No, it is. If you're trying to start a family.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying we're keep in mind this is our audience, so let's maybe not like
I know.
insult them away.
This gets me. It gets me going. It gets me going.
I know. I get it. There are definitely topics that all of us have. For Neil, it's like all of them. But it like and there's a lot of people who think like everyone should make the same amount.
And then there's the whole sweatshop argument, like, oh, we're just going to promote sweatshops. Well, at least they have the choice of either A, working in a sweatshop, or B, living homeless. At least they have the freaking choice. Like, wouldn't you rather them have the choice? Like, sweatshop, getting paid, like, barely living wage or not even living wage is horrible. However, it's better than not getting paid anything, right? Which is literally what you have.
Basically just go watch our interview with Kevin Olson if you want to get like a really full, in-depth, both sides kind of like discussion about it, because that's what we had.
I basically am on the opposite side, and I literally changed my opinion on this overnight because it just made logical sense. Minimum wage is so stupid. I never really liked the minimum wage, but I had some arguments against it. I've always been opposed to raising the minimum wage because it just causes inflation. If everybody has 10 apples and you give everybody one extra apple, the apples are worth one apple less because everyone then has that one apple.
I do have something to say. Like, there's a story in the Bible about, like, I don't know, like some angel gave everyone in the city. Well, just use the city as an example for like the world. I don't know. Everyone gets an extra 100 pieces of gold. So now you have the merchants who realize everyone has 100 extra gold. Now I can raise the prices because everyone's richer. Which is a logical
inflation.
Which is a logical thing to do. It's not stupid to do that. And then
and it's not evil to do that.
And then the people that go out and spend their money then are like they get something. But then the people that are smart and decide to save that money that they just got are screwed over because now that $100 is essentially worthless, and the people that did spend it when it had some amount of worth, which were the stupid people, now they actually get something for their $100.
Things like this is why you can't go out and buy a soda for a quarter anymore.
Yeah, it shows why the smart people, like the dumb people, get rewarded. Like stupid people get rewarded.
Okay, but once again, I'm just gonna say, like, I'd prefer if we don't insult.
No, this isn't. That
wasn't even insulting the audience.
That's not me.
I know. I'm just saying. I always end up on the show being the moderator of like using things like it's an idiotic and the idiots get paid. Like, just
Martin is just the embodiment of the middle ground fallacy.
It's not a fallacy to say don't be mean to
Martin
me.
is the embodiment of taking things way too seriously as well, clearly.
Definitely. I know that. I just like taking things seriously because then it like gets you really riled up and then I can laugh at it. If I like take things seriously, and
Martin is bragging about being an emotionally manipulating monster, so I just want to point that out. But
Dylan does that too, though. We both emotionally.
yeah.
Yeah,
But, so I just want to, okay, so wait.
We have 2 minutes though, so we
should just, all right, so he also said go capitalism is also something that we either shouldn't have said or he disagreed with.
I mean that's okay if you disagree.
We don't really have time to touch on that because capitalism is such a broad topic, but
yeah, but I personally
what show can we reference this person?
All a lot of
all of them.
All of the ones from season 2 have talked about like why we believe.
Talk to the one who, what's your dad's name again, Martin? That one also covers
Kevin Olsen. Yeah, that one also.
Kevin Olsen. Go to the video on Kevin Olsen. That one covers it.
Oh, so we got the same comment. You have to stop thinking money and work centrically. Read Peter Gray's how to about less work. Great read.
I
mean, that's kind of how life works, though. You get money.
Maybe I'm not thinking about it, but if
we're talking about the minimum wage, then we're obviously talking about money. So why do we need to exit the context of money?
Yeah, like bringing up the minimum wage at all is bringing up money, and money is definitely not the most important thing in the world, but it's definitely important. And you sometimes you have to accept realities of situations, and you need money to live. And
none of us are saying that you shouldn't care. Yeah, you should care about only money or anything. We were just talking.
You do need to be, to be realistic and not to be happy, but to be realistic about life. It's definitely good to have an idea of where you're going to get your money from, and to get money, you should work for your money.
Again, the whole no minimum wage thing the whole no minimum wage thing has nothing to do with talking about being money centric. It just literally gives people a choice. It literally gives people a choice.
I think it's just makes logical sense.
Even if we were being money-centric, I don't necessarily see the problem with that. Anyways, it's 6 o'clock now, so we gotta
go. All right, so thank
you for participating.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much, and
hope we can do it again soon. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Humanity has been on an epic journey of discovery, learning the truth about the world we live in. New discoveries about the true origins of humanity, ancient history, free energy, as well as the systematic corruption of world governments are now on the forefront of our daily reality. Is the world headed towards destruction based on control and power? Or is an opportunity now being presented to shift and uplift into a higher consciousness? My name is Mel V, co-founder and creative director of Conscious Consumer Network, an independent broadcast network that was launched on the 1st of January 2015. In the last 3 years, Conscious Consumer Network has broadcast over 2,800 shows in multiple languages, featuring guests from across the world, whilst creating media that is aimed at the creation of a free, fair, peaceful, just, sustainable world. Conscious Consumer Network provides full training and an interactive support network for all broadcasters, and we are always looking for inspiring and educational content.
Hi, this is Lady Liberty.
And this is Miro Siegel.
In 2018, Conscious Consumer Network has expanded to multiple broadcast locations, increasing our availability and reach across the world, remaining on the cutting edge of independent media. If we wish to create a better world, we must first create better media, geared towards real education instead of indoctrination.
You guys really are what changing the world is going to be about. It's educating kids at a grassroots level.
Having become a pillar of stability in the turbulent world of independent media, we have even more going on in 2018. Conscious Consumer Network is a publicly funded network, and we rely on all of you to keep us on the air. Show your support for independent media by donating to our 2018 Network Support Fund. Dare to seek a better world. Support independent media.